Hi, welcome to this week's Authors Love Readers podcast, where we delve into the stories behind the stories. We're asking authors questions, some of them fun, some of them serious, and from their answers, you're going to learn things you never knew about the people who write the stories you love. My name is Patricia McLinn. I'm your host and designated question asker. Now, let's start the show. Hi, this is Patricia McLinn. Welcome to today's episode of Authors Love Readers. I'm usually your host, interviewing an individual author, but this episode we're going to do things a little differently. I have a lot of fun talking with my fellow authors in doing these interviews, and as you know, we sometimes get a little bit off topic. That's an understatement. We also like to talk a lot longer than the finished product that you all hear. So some of that is cut out by Dylan, my wonderful editor. And it's interesting. Everything we say is interesting, of course. So we've been saving those clips for a compilation episode of bonus audio. So let's get started. Now, when I say we get off topic, we can really get off topic, but we've saved some of the best moments for you. So have a listen to these. I don't follow recipes.
Even when you bake?
No, yeah. A new recipe I will, but like chocolate chip cookies. I'll sort of eyeball it.
Yeah.
And I used to make cookies and take them to work, and it worked a lot with guys working in the sports department.
Yeah.
And so my first rule was double the chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you work from there.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have just enough batter to hold the chocolate together. Okay, we've gotten totally off here. As I knew we would. Going back to Spider-Man, I have to tell you, at one time I was a blue light special at a Kmart.
Well, that's pretty cool. I probably was too, but my memory isn't good enough to remember. Because Kmart was the only store in town.
Yeah. And those blue light specials were a big deal.
Yeah. And do you find, like I find, particularly with a book like Pride and Prejudice, even though I've read it, 100 times, I can't put that book down because I'm convinced that this one time they won't get together at the end.
And I tend to reread books for the journey, so I could, a book I really, really like, I could reread and not read the ending.
Yes.
Because the ending isn't as important to me as the getting to the ending.
Yeah, I so get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we went off.
As one does.
First question, and we went off. As you've probably figured out, I record Authors Love Readers podcast from my home. And there can be some unexpected noises that occur in the background. The most prominent one is probably Callie, my dog, but that's not the only one. First of all, I should tell people I'm having a thunderstorm where I am, and it's actually dying down now. But if you hear any strange noises, obviously we can't do much about nature, so we're just going ahead here.
Well, and I have an 8-year-old playing dominoes in the hallway outside my room that I'm hiding in. So if you hear anything like that, they've been told to stay away. But
the listeners have heard a dog bark here and there too. So
the fun of writing from home.
Yeah, but I've promised listeners that this all stemmed from somebody a reader saying how much she was impressed and loved talking with authors at this event, and she wished she could do it more often. And I'm thinking, I talk to authors all the time. So and so that's how the podcast was born. So figure you're getting a real feel. The listeners. Oops, sorry, dog. I was getting poked. So it's certainly a direction. I'm going to hold on here for half a second.
Okay.
The reason I was getting poked by one dog is I forgot I still have the door closed on the other dog. So I'm going to let her out of the laundry room. Okay, I got the message, Callie. Okay, good girl. here, Oliver. Come on. Free dogs. Okay, that was my collie telling me, not that Timmy was down in the well, but that Ever was stuck in the laundry room.
That's good enough.
Hold on. Gotta wait for the stupid phone.
Call from unavailable.
Okay, I'm starting this again about the reoccurring. I'm being quiet here, and Dylan, hold on for a second because they're mowing. I don't know if you can hear that, Kate.
I can hear a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I have very little grass in back, so they should be leaving back to the front shortly. But yeah, they're trimming and mowing and doing all that stuff. I could hear them coming, and I thought, oh, keep talking, Kate, keep talking. You know, and doing this podcast, we all have to keep aware that we are writers as opposed to talkers. Now, we do talk a lot, and especially when writers get together, because we spend so much time alone and so much time in our own heads, it can really be a talk fest. Still, we get tongue-tied and say things we didn't really mean to say. And that's when the phrase comes, Dylan, can you edit that out, please? So we rely on Dylan to save us from ourselves, and hope to see you next week. I don't start that sentence again, Dylan. Although I don't usually ask people the following question, but I'm going to ask you this. And what do you want me to refer to you as? Jelly?
Oh my God. Don't tell my husband that, because that's all I'm going to be called now.
Sorry.
That's great. Jelly Kent Raine. That's my 5th pen name now.
Okay, I can see another one coming here. I get a percentage. It surely wasn't as glamorous. Start again. Never mind. Dylan, let me delete that and try that one again. I'm going to start that one again. And actually, I'm going to take a little drink of water. Not a whole lot of cursing goes on in the show, but sometimes words do slip out. Here are some of the best parts that didn't make it to the show. Now, warning, if you don't like cursing, you might want to skip past this point because you are about to hear some curse words. Kelly McClymer says, I once read, this is totally off track, but I once read this fascinating article about that there were 3 areas of swearing. There was the religious, there was the sexual, and there's the scatological.
I believe it.
And that people tend to focus on one more than the other. And then the article didn't say this, but I was thinking probably the one that offends me the most is the sexual, because a lot of that is aimed at another person. You know, it's something new.
Kind of others, somebody else. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's more confrontational with another person, where especially the scatological tends to be at the fates. You know, I'm being very circumspect here.
And really, throughout history, we have always spoken to our gods. So it's not the most unlikely thing to do is to call on the gods when you're most upset.
Yeah. I think I like that. I may use that excuse. Of course, I was also the kid in CCD. I was the kids who went to public school but were being raised Catholic, went to the Catholic version of Sunday school. And I was told that I was going to go to hell because I'd read the Count of Monte Cristo, which was by an atheist. And I was, I don't know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, something like that.
Well,
and it was a lay teacher.
You read the Count of Monte Cristo in 3rd grade?
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading the Brothers Karamazov in second grade because my sister brought it home from college. I had a really hard time with the names. Why did they name these people these weird names? But
you
I
sound
picked
like
it up
me.
and was
It's like
reading it.
there's a book there. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yes. So anyhow, this lay teacher tells me I'm going to go to hell because it was written by an atheist. And I thought about it a little bit and I said, well, if I'm going to hell, I'm breaking all the rules. Because if it's a done deal,
Now,
you know,
wait a minute.
what the heck?
What about going to, people who don't know about Catholics, every week we're supposed to go to confession and then we confess our sins and then we get our penance and then we're all back to not going to hell. So how did you miss that part?
Well, I don't know that the lay teacher brought it up because I just figured it was a free ride to break all the rules. And so she got the priest. And the priest got my mother, and they double teamed me.
Wait a minute! You said this out loud?
No.
Oh, you said it out loud.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. I said it to the lay teacher. I said, "Hey, you're sending me to hell for something I've already done, reading this book. Why should I obey any future rules?" And the priest and my mother said that wasn't quite the way it worked. So and
did you believe that?
Well, and the priest said I had to be understanding of this older lay teacher who came from a different era. And
well, that was very understanding.
But she said,
you really wanted to believe her, right? Because then you wouldn't have to follow the rules. You just wanted an excuse not to follow the rules.
No more rules. I was free and clear.
Darn those parents.
I know. They just, they ruin everything. So, yes. Boy, we got way off there. But we're talking about childhood. So did you have
when you go to Catholic school? You get or are raised in a certain
Yes. But I think it gives you a lot of fodder for stories.
Definitely.
And I love the historic aspects of the continuity. I think that's the same thing with Judaism. Like I think the menorah is. I want a menorah
tradition. Yes.
Possibly in the way it was said in Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition. I love that. Yeah. So I may add a menorah to my Christmas tree traditions, just because I think they're wonderful.
I do really like the 8 days. Yes, that is a nice tradition.
So, barring the Brothers Karamazov or the Count of Monte Cristo, and my friend Rachel Grant contributes. I'll tell you the other thing, as long as we're talking about cursing, the thing that really bothers me it's the lack of gender equality in cursing. And in that, if a woman is called something nasty, it's the word that rhymes with witch. Mm-hmm. It's her being nasty. If the guy is called something, it's often a bastard. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, it's his mother.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wait a minute. We can't win for losing, So I very consciously try not to ever, no matter what, in any context, call people, men in particular, bastards, because it is not reflective of their actions. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna have a white paper on
exactly.
A number of topics reoccur frequently on Authors Love Readers. For some reason, technology is one of those. It always comes up. Goodness, you'd think we actually relied on the thing to help us get our books out. So here's what Kelly McClymer has to say. And this is something for the listeners. I was thinking, Kelly is my friend that I would talk with about I am convinced that quantum computing and artificial intelligence or machine learning are going to combine to make wonderful search engines for readers to find really books that hit the emotion that they wanted. And one theory now is that machine learning will make translating possible, or by and more economical. But I could see that happening a lot more with nonfiction than fiction, or maybe some kinds of fiction.
Well, once you have the artificial intelligence, so you'd have to have AI that could understand the idioms and understand how you twisted the idioms. It is possible. It's sophisticated. I mean, we're not there yet. And then they'd have to be able to do it the same in the other language.
So they would have to understand humor in both languages.
And they'd have to
The
understand
AI.
the specific way that you were playing on that humor. But I would think a machine is more likely to be able to do that well eventually, an AI, than human beings because, well, I don't know. I have a friend. I went to high school with someone who spoke English and German. Her mother was from Germany, from early on, and then added to 3 or 4 more languages. I can't remember, but I know she had Spanish and French when we were in high school, and then she added in Italian and Russian. She spent her career in Boston translating for the foreign terminal. People who were like, I've lost this, or I don't know how to get here, or who had questions. So she practiced it all the time. And she actually, I think, would be one person that I would trust to get idioms in different languages. But she's the only one I can think of. I know I wouldn't be able to.
Oh, goodness, no. I realized I was in, I took Spanish for quite a while, and I was in Spain at the end of 2017. And what I realized is that I had retained a lot of nouns, but verbs, not so much. So I was trying to do a lot of communicating with nouns and thought, yeah, this is really limiting.
Well, I've just spent some time with a 2-year-old, and that's pretty much the way we learn language. She's really good at have that.
At least she's got have.
Yeah, well, yes, her mother is working on may I have that. It will sort of in order. Her hand is out. Have that.
She cut to the core of the issue.
Exactly.
And Donna Kauffman, someone I've known from the time I started in writing, has this to say about technology. I often think I will go back, but other books get in the way. So they just have to wait their turn.
Oh yeah. There's always, you're too busy. It's like the Savannah series. I have had that in my head for so long, but I'm so deeply entrenched in the Blue Hollow Falls series that's set in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it's going well. I love it. Everybody's loving it. I'm thrilled that they're loving it because I want to stay here forever. And I'm so excited about it. But I can't wait to get to those stories too. So if I could just clone myself, and she can go over there and write the Savannah series, and you can go over here and write all those characters that you never got to finish, and then I can sit here and just stay in the mountains and write what I want to write. That'd be wonderful.
But Donna, then both of your yous, with you and the clone, would have different things they wanted to do. So it would be multiple.
Yeah, right. I know, right? Exactly. It just never. But that's, someone said, how do you, I've written a lot of books because it's been decades, and books happen. And so someone said, well, so what happens? Did you ever have a hard time, thinking something up? And I just laughed maniacally, like, no, I'd have to live to 110 now just to tell all the ones I already know. So no, that's the exact opposite. It's this wonderful world filled with all kinds of things that you can still talk about. And that's the thing too, because I already have all these ideas in my head that I'm dying to tell, but then new things pop up. New people walk in and pick up photos and do stuff. And I'm like, oh, what about that? It's like the list of what I want to write about gets exponentially longer than as fast as I can write them.
Here's Eve Gaddy.
Because there's always strange things on the internet. look at a news story and then down at the bottom they have more. And you need to know about this celebrity and, what celebrities have bad plastic surgery.
Oh, I will not I will not click on those. I will not. I think, well, first of all, I think they're
bad.
Gratuitously mean, and plus I tend to think they're scam sites, so I will not do it.
I try not to, but I'm weak. What can I say? Like, do I really care about that? Well, no, but
Well, and I'm one of those peculiar people that I figure the way I show my appreciation for whatever talent or benefit celebrities bring to the world is by my giving them privacy. So I don't follow celebrities or their private lives.
It's just, if something's there and it looks interesting, I'll flip through it sometimes. But I usually don't last long because it annoys me that it takes so long.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing I'll do if any of those, most of them just don't appeal and don't pull. But if any of them, especially there'll be historical ones sometimes that will tweak at me, I go to a different tab and type in the gist of the question. And then when it pulls up, you can see if those are in fact bad sites, phishing sites, or, because they have reputations and you can tell they're not good. And sometimes you can go back and you can see on the Google search results, you can see the original legitimate story that they have riffed off of and ripped off. And then you can find the real information without contributing to these less than stellar websites. Okay, end of my public service announcement for the day. I'll let you talk about. Have you noticed this is a very writerly thing? Have you noticed on some of the I think it's more an email, but if you start to type something wrong and it underlines it to show you it's wrong and you go back and you correct it, it still underlines it. This drives me nuts because it's
still wrong in its opinion, but it may be wrong.
It is, because I will correct it to the correct thing and it's still telling me it's wrong. And I sit there and look at it and I know I'm right. I know I'm right. And yet it's telling me I'm wrong. So then I will go and check it and I'll be right. So I want that darn program fixed so that when you correct it, it stops telling you you're wrong incorrectly.
I don't know that I've noticed that. I mean, I noticed that, it tells me things are wrong that I'm writing that I know is the way I want it to be. Because, it's an email and it keeps correcting it and it's like, leave it alone.
Oh, in text that drives me nuts. The autocorrect. Oh, yeah. Okay. And I think about that and I know I could not write on a typewriter because I cut and paste so much. I move things around all the time. I was very fortunate that computers existed at the time when I was coming in and wanting to write because it would not have worked. There would not be a single book, just wouldn't work. So I have great admiration for those who have written books on typewriters or earlier before there were typewriters. Holy mackerel. Speaking of technology, authors have a unique relationship with audiobooks. Here are some of the best moments. Lori Ryan, you talked about your going to sleep routine. Do you tend to have routine? Is that to make you to trigger that now this is going to sleep time? Yeah. And I'm asking this because I want to lead up to then, do you do the same thing with writing?
I don't with writing. So I had trouble for a long time sleeping, and I've actually really recently kind of seemed to crack the code for the most part on my sleeping. So and I know tons of my readers have issues with sleeping. So I'll tell you, I have my lotion, although that just, I think, is just more sort of a soothing thing for me. Although lavender is calming, but I actually started taking magnesium supplements, which I think has been one of the biggest things in helping me sleep lately. And then I use a little app called Calm on my iPhone, and it reads you stories. It like reads you bedtime stories, and the narration and the stories themselves are designed to, like, they have repetitive phrases in them, and they read them in these really soothing tones. And some of the narrators, actually, you kind of have to play with the different stories they have in there, because some of the narrators are very soothing to me and other ones are grating on my nerves, and I'll play one with that person and be like, oh, I got to turn this off. But they're great.
Interesting.
Most of the time I'll be asleep before the story is over. It's pretty rare that I have to actually play two of them to go to sleep. So that's been a big help. And then the magnesium has been a huge help in helping me to stay asleep at night, because that used to be another issue, was that I would wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and not be able to go back to sleep. So that's been a huge deal for me. But oddly enough, so once I'm up, I'm kind of a person who's just, I'm not all that organized. I have ADHD and I just kind of jump from one thing to the next. So I don't really have rituals or routines for writing. It's mostly I just, and I also, I have 3 young kids. And so it's kind of like, as soon as I get the kids dropped off at school, then I come home and I'm just sitting down and writing then. So it's really just a mad dash to be able to sit down and get my computer and write. And that's, I guess you could describe my routine more as a mad dash.
Tawdra Kandle, what's your relationship with audiobooks now?
I don't have a lot of quiet time in my life to listen to audiobooks. When I am alone in the car, which is rare, I do tend to listen to music more than books, but I love them. I listen to a lot of the Harry Potter books on audio, because we would buy the audiobooks when they came out, and we would buy the book, and then we would all of my family, I had 4 children, so we would, the 6 of us kind of trade off on who had the book, who had the audiobook. And we'd get through it that way. And if we all happen to be driving, we'd listen to it too. But aside from that, I enjoy them. If I have the time, there's just not a whole lot of quiet in my life.
I wondered if having that those years of hearing your dad's voice, if it was hard to listen to anybody else's.
Not necessarily. I do love Jim Dale, who reads the Harry Potters. I will say I have a preference for him, and I am very picky, very, very picky about voices and pronunciation. And
I could not listen to audiobooks for a really long time, because they'd start talking and my mind would wander off, and I'd be doing a different story, and and usually driving. I would be, of course, focusing on the driving very carefully, but also my mind would wander off, and then you come back to the story, and where the heck were they now? And I'd missed stuff. And what finally got me into them was I was listening to some Carl Hiaasen, that Ed Asner was the narrator, the actor Ed Asner, and he was phenomenal. He was just amazing. And it finally flipped a switch or something in my head that I could start listening to audiobooks. And I love them for road trips. Make it go faster, and I tend to do less yelling at other drivers listening to audiobooks.
It's true. As I said, I'm just rarely in the car by myself. My kids are older. They're between 17 and 29, but we still are usually traveling together, or in some combination thereof. So, but I don't have anything against them, and I have a feeling that I'll probably listen to more. I do a lot of my reading very, very late at night before I fall asleep, and
Donna Kauffman. So the covers for the audiobooks are totally different, which would indicate to me that they are expecting that it's a totally different audience too. That because otherwise it would be confusing if people were used to the print covers and then looked at the audio, which makes sense. But I do know a lot of people who also consume both in print and audio.
Right. In the past, my books were with Audible, and these are with Tantor, they've just done a stunning job. I can't say enough wonderful things about both of them. Actually, I've had great experiences across the board, but it was just something I didn't anticipate. But they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so far, I haven't had anybody be confused. I mean, I think it's just set it apart as a separate thing. It's like the large print versions of these books are also completely different. And what's really funny is that in the book that's out now, the hero happens to have long hair. It's actually a big part of his character, and the heroine does not. And so, but on the cover, it's the other way around. So I'm like, well, you see, I think they kind of got that backwards. But okay.
Authors weren't always authors, even if we wish we could have been. And some of us have had very surprising jobs, including me. My very first job was working as a page in the Helen M. Plum Memorial Library in Lombard, Illinois. So I'm a big fan of libraries. And if you have a limited budget, I highly recommend that. Julia Kent, what's a surprising job you've held?
Oh, I have held so many jobs, so many. I was a haunted house monster when I was 15. I lied about my age. And that was fun. I lied about my age. We made $15 a night for about 6 hours of work, and we got paid cash at the end of the night. And I loved it. It was great and lasted like 6 weeks. That was one of my jobs. Another job I had that was at one point I was much more fluent in Spanish than I am now. And I was in grad school, and the earliest machine translators were not earliest, but like they were working on commercializing these translation programs. Like now we have Google Translate, and you just, you're trying to read something in German and you pop it in. But my job was to help the computer when it got stuck on a word and to put the definition of a word.
You were a computer helper. I love that.
Basically. Yeah. That would have been 1992, I think. So those are the two of the, more interesting. I mean, I was a mystery shopper for 13 years too, for fun and to make extra money. And I had some weird things there, but most of those ended up in my series.
But you didn't take the job with the thought of writing about it. It was a
legit
job. And okay.
Nope. Back then it was just, wait a minute, I make like $10 and a free sandwich and coffee to write up a report. That's kind of cool. You got paid to shop.
Okay.
So I just did that. Yeah.
They'd have to pay me a lot more than that to shop. I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I want. Give it to me now.
Oh no. When you mystery shop, you have to buy exactly what they tell you to buy.
No. I had a jacket that I used to say it was the perfect jacket because my sister-in-law bought it for me. It was silk. It was washable. It had pockets. And she bought it, had it delivered to my front door. All I had to do was open the door. That was to me the perfect shopping experience. I am willing to open the door. So that's the extent of my shopping. Debra Salonen. Well, and I got to say, you were talking about flipping burgers and doing fast food. I did not flip burgers, but I did work at Taco Bell. It is the only job I have ever been fired from.
Oh, wow.
And he said I was a smart mouth college kid who thought I knew more than he did. Which was all true.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of funny that that's what he fired me for instead of the food fight we had with lettuce that we then used in tacos.
Ew.
And I didn't really care too much because that summer I had 3 jobs simultaneously.
Hope the other two were more interesting.
One was I was the cashier at the theater, movie theater.
Yeah.
So that was okay. You saw, friends came in and out. I once got a hug from somebody because I carded them for age. They were like 30. And so, oh, thank you. And then I was a receptionist at a country club. And that was a lot of fun. That was really interesting. More for the staff than the
for like the
members
for their restaurant.
Yeah. Go back and tell me how you ran your own candy store.
Well, I mean, when you're 12 or 13, but the only job you can get is to babysit. And, you don't make a whole lot of money at babysitting. The kids in the neighborhood weren't the world's best behaved. So I went to the parks department where they had a stand down there that was empty. Nobody ever used it for anything. I thought, well, that's a good place to sell candy at. And I asked the parks department and they said, oh, sure, whatever, and I would get on a bus with my little cooler and go down to the candy distributor and fill it up with whatever I could get cheaply that I knew the kids would eat, take the bus back home and sit there in the park and sell my candy.
Do you have any idea what sort of profit margin you had?
Of course not. I had enough to buy a new dress at the end of the week. I was good,
That's amazing. And where were you growing up?
Lexington, Kentucky, most of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that about you.
Well, I'm just a little insane. That's,
Yeah. Well, I knew you had been an accountant, but I didn't know about the candy store. So that's really interesting. Even when we did become full-time authors, it wasn't always as glamorous as it might appear to be. Truly not glamorous. Here is Barbara O'Neill and I talking about royalties.
Well, I always tell the story that my older son, who is like a really driven sort of academic, he's going to be a law professor. I think he's starting his first professorship this in August. So that's the kind of mindset that he has. He's a lawyer, but he used to say that he was going to be a stand-up comedian like in the evenings, but he was going to work in a cubicle in the daytime because he did not like those ups and downs of money. Like, I would be rich. Let's go to the mall. Let's get our school clothes. The royalties would come in. It's like, okay, kids, let's go buy some shoes. And it was just like that. But he did want that security. Like, the lack of security really was not that much fun. My younger son he's a lot more like me. He's a lot more laid back on that level. But, again, you make your choices. And I really did want this life so badly that I was willing to do whatever it took to have it.
And for readers who aren't familiar with this, when we were working for publishers and we would license our book to them, sell in quotes, but sell the rights. And then you would get an advance against royalties that was usually divided into pieces. And so you got some of it when you signed the contract, and then you get it varied over time, but say some of it when you delivered the manuscript, and then some on publication. That was probably the most common.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you had a book that came out like in June, you got no money until the following May because they did it in 6-month increments. Right. So it would be from July, basically, because the book wouldn't have earned very much in June. It probably wouldn't have earned enough that it paid back that advance. So then you wouldn't get anything in November. You'd have to wait until 6 months later to get those last 6 months of the previous years. So we were always, and you never knew how much
you
money.
Never knew. It was terrible.
It was awful.
But sometimes it could be great. Like, sometimes you would have a bunch of foreign sales and, Japan and Germany and all the really good ones, and they would all be in there, and you would just open up a check and go, what? Wow. And it would be a lot of money sometimes. And then I remember another time we were expecting, like, the usual, we sort of knew how to predict. Yeah. And they changed the rules somehow. And it was a disaster. It wasn't just a disaster for me, but everyone who had been waiting
it was
for
reserves.
Oh, yeah, reserves. Yeah. May. It was the disaster of May, Black May. No one got any money. Like, I was expecting, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000, and I got like 800, which, you know, there went my whole budget for the whole summer, right?
For 6 months.
Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. That was a hideous way to make money.
And reserves were that the publisher could protect themselves in case there were returns on the book, and they would ding us for returns. I remember one was like 5 years later. They said somebody had returned one copy of the book,
right,
and I owed them that money back. It's like, really?
One of the greatest changes, one of the best changes in the publishing industry is that all publishers have had to be a lot more transparent. And of course, in indie publishing, you know exactly what's happening every single day, every minute, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
But it also forced traditional publishers to be a lot more open about what's happening. And, you know, I work with like Union, and of course you access the numbers there, just like you do if you're self-publishing or indie publishing.
Yeah, that has been terrific. And so as an indie publisher, you usually get paid
monthly.
30, yeah, but 1 month behind. So if you end, well,
it's two to
more
1.
Like 60 days.
I think there's some that are 1 and 1,
yeah.
some that are 2.
So the month ends, and you don't get paid the end of the next month. It's the one after that.
But it's still, I mean, every month there's money coming in, which is, that was for me one of the most unbelievable joys of indie publishing. I'm like, I can't believe this. I got money today, and I'm going to get money like next month again.
Yes.
It does allow you to do things like, maybe I can afford to buy a nicer car. You know, I mean.
And you know how much is going to come in because you see the results, you see the accumulation. And so, in 2 months how much you're going to get instead of these every 6 months. I can remember opening the envelope and going, will it be more than this? If it's more than this, I can do that. If it's this, I can, dear. Yes.
We always took, my boys and I would always take $100, no matter how much the royalties were. We would take $100. I'll go to the local Pueblo mall, and we would buy like some clothing and some special thing that we really wanted. Like, you could actually buy clothing for, $10 or $20 at the time. So you couldn't really do that very easily with $100 now, but at the time you could, and it was always like this big ritual. And I know that they both remember that as something that was really fun.
I hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Authors Love Readers, with a compilation of extra bits that I haven't been able to share with you before. Did not want these to go to waste. And we might have another compilation or 2 episode in the works coming up, because we do talk longer than we're supposed to, because we're having such a good time. And I think it's really fascinating material for all of you to listen to. So I appreciate Dylan doing all the work and editing this together, and hope you'll join us again next week for a regular version of Authors Love Readers podcast, when we interview a new author and hear about the stories behind her or his stories, and let you get to know them a little better. In the meantime, have a great week of reading. That's the show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining Authors Love Readers podcast. Remember, you can always find out more about our guest authors in the show notes, and you can find out more about me at www.patriciamclinn.com. You can also send in questions to be asked of future authors at podcast@authorslovereaders.com. Until next week, wishing you lots of happy reading. Bye.